The Lachine Canal National Historic Site of Canada is located in the southern part of the island of Montreal. This 14.5-kilometer-long engineering structure was built between 1821 and 1825 to circumvent 5 kilometers of white water on the St. Lawrence River between Lachine and the Old Port on Montreal Island. It is now a recreational waterway running through the south-central part of the city of Montreal. Since 1848, the canal has had 5 locks: Lachine, Côte St. Paul, St. Gabriel, and 2 locks at Old Port of Montreal. We are now flying along the canal from the Lachine area towards the Old Port area. Here, you see the Lachine Lock. At its zenith from 1880 to 1940, the industrial and manufacturing area adjacent to the canal was once the largest in Canada in terms of both the number of firms and diversity of its output. At one time, over 20% of the workforce of the island of Montreal was employed in its factories. Given its historic importance, the Lachine Canal Manufacturing Complex was designated a National Historic Site of Canada in 1996, in addition to the designation already enjoyed by the canal itself. Here, we see the Côte St. Paul Lock. The Lachine Canal fell victim to deindustrialization. Many of the factories that lined the Lachine Canal were torn down and replaced by houses and apartments. Here, we see the Outwater Public Market. Now we see the St. Gabriel Lock. And now we see the Old Port Locks 1 and 2 giving access again to the St. Lawrence River through Montreal's port area. Each lock along the canal has a water level difference averaging between 2.5 and 3 meters. The total water level difference between one end of the canal and the other reaches up to 14 meters. By 1990, there was the feeling that the area's industrial history was being forgotten. In response, the Historic Sites and Monuments Board named the canal Lachine Canal Manufacturing Complex. The area was renovated after Parks Canada took over the administration. Over the last 2 decades, the canal has seen a large increase in residential and commercial development. In what was originally a very heavy industrial neighborhood, Point St. Charles and St. Henri have become very up-and-coming districts. House values have skyrocketed and many real estate developers have turned the century-old industrial factories and warehouses, like that of Dominion Textiles' Simmons Bedding Company, into loft buildings. The Lachine Canal became obsolete when the St. Lawrence Seaway opened up. The last of the industries still using the canal system ended in 1970. Managed by Parks Canada, the Lachine Canal reopened in 2002 as a pleasure boating area. They offer a wide array of activities such as kayaking, canoeing, paddleboarding, and initiation to camping. A bike path also runs along the entire canal, which in 2009 placed 3rd on Time magazine's list of the top 10 urban bike paths in the world. The area around the Outwater Public Market has become one of Montreal's most desirable residential areas for condo owners. Much of this is thanks to the continued effort to clean up the canal. Along with the residences and condos on the canal, there are also several restaurants, bars and businesses where one can rent kayaks, canoes, rowboats, pedal boats, motorboats and bicycles. Many sites along the canal are now being used for receptions and parties, such as this wedding reception at the Chateau Saint-Ambroise. This is the Lachine lock in the middle of an operation. Note that the first door is being closed in the background after allowing the boat into the lock. After lowering the water level inside the lock, the second door is open to allow the boats to leave. Once past the Lachine Lock in the westerly direction, the St. Lawrence River is once again accessed via the Lachine Riverside Park at the end of the canal. The Lachine Lock is the entry point of the Lachine Canal for vessels going east towards the Old Port of Montreal and beyond. Once past the Old Port and returning to the St. Lawrence River, it is possible to sail all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. The park near the Lachine Lock is the site of the Air India Flight 182 Memorial. Air India Flight 182 was a flight operating on the Montreal, London, Delhi, Bombay route. On June 23, 1985, the flight was being operated using a Boeing 747. In its first leg of the flight from Montreal to London, while approaching the Irish coast at an altitude of 31,000 feet, or 9,400 meters, over the Atlantic Ocean, the airliner disintegrated in midair as a result of an explosion from a bomb planted by Canadian Sikh militants. The remnants of the airliner fell into the ocean approximately 190 kilometers, or 120 miles, off the coast of Ireland, killing all 329 people aboard, including 268 Canadian citizens, 27 British citizens, and 24 Indian citizens. The bombing of Air India Flight 182 is the deadliest aviation incident in the history of Air India and was the world's deadliest act of aviation terrorism until the September 11 attacks in 2001. The other end of the canal, at the Old Port of Montreal, is the location of the entry point into the canal for vessels going east, or the exit of the canal for vessels going west. There are two locks at this location. Here we see the first of the two locks in the Old Port site. Note the height of the water level difference on either side of the lock. Here we see the second of the two locks at the Old Port site. Note again the significant difference between the water level on either side of the lock. Sitting between the two Old Port locks is the Daniel McAllister tug. Built in Toronto in 1907 to operate in the Great Lakes and originally named as the Helena, the tug was purchased in 1967 by McAllister Towing Limited of Montreal when it was renamed to Daniel McAllister. The tug was retired from active service in the 1980s and has since become a tourist attraction in the canal. The Lachine Canal is a National Historic Site of Canada, offering a significant number of attractions that can be enjoyed by people of all ages all year round. Visiting these attractions is highly recommended. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, like, subscribe, and activate the notification bell. Thank you for watching.